Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you, featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your very best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. You know, we have guests on our show that are talented. All the guests that we have some skill that is really amazing. Well, Lani Dickinson, our new guest today, was born and adopted from China, and she began dancing at age 8 in Maryland, later attending various schools. She graduated summa cum laude from Alonzo King Lines Ballet and received a BFA program at Dominican University. Now, Lani has joined a company called Access Dance, and it's a very special company, and I'm going to ask Lani specifically why it is so special in its ways. So let me just say hello to Lani and welcome her to the Susan Brender Show. And hello, Lani.
Hello.
Okay, Lani. So here it goes. I want you to tell the audience what the dance company you're in, Access, is all about. What kind of company is it, and what do they do that is so special?
Well, I've danced with the company for about 2 years, and my relationship started back in 2015 when Judith Smith, the founder, invited me to their rehearsals. And then I attended their summer intensive in August of 2015, which they host every summer, which is a huge thing because it's 30-some people with and without disabilities gathered together to basically dance together. There's 3 modules: improvisation, choreography, and a teacher training. And
Go ahead, please.
Okay. And so the following summer, I actually got to audition, and that's when I joined Access. And through the audition process, we had an interview, and I realized that what I have been doing independently as a dancer had been great, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback of how I've been a bit of an inspiration, but I was really inspired by Access and the team that they had put together, and that it's an established company for 30 years, the last 30 years. And so Access is really, we call it a physically integrated contemporary repertoire dance company. And I had training in contemporary and dance repertoire, but not so much in the physically integrated part.
Let's talk about that a little bit, Lani, because you mentioned a word that is really important to this whole discussion, and that is that this is a company with people who have certain disabilities, including yourself. And I'm just interested, and I'm sure the audience is interested as well. And what they probably want to know is, how does somebody with disabilities, function in a really high level dance company? How do they do it? How do you do it?
I think everybody in the company comes from a very different background. As far as training, I've had a very classical kind of ballet, modern training, mostly all in non-disabled environments. Yeah.
And what is your disability, Lani?
Oh, I was actually born with just my right arm, not the left arm.
All right. So give me an idea of what you do to compensate for the other arm.
Well, I'd say that, I fell in love with ballet in the beginning, and so interestingly, I wanted to dance ballet, but my mind was kind of struggling to understand the logistics of it because, for example, the port-de-bras, it's actually the French term meaning carriage of the arms, and my first obstacle was that movement, which is used so much in ballet. And at the bar, we actually use port-de-bras, but only one side of the body at a time. With my right hand on the bar, what do I do? Well, I started to use my head. I started to focus my eyes more and even use the small part of my left arm that I do have. And then I started getting a little bit of praise for my port de bras, but my version of it, I think, in my training. So not only did it aesthetically look right, but I believe that it's helped me sustain the mobility and flexibility on my left side and arm. And not to go too far, but I have had multiple surgeries, and getting back at the bar was something I used to look forward to when I was going through my period of surgeries.
Wow. So the surgeries, what was the purpose of the surgeries?
Well, the bone was growing too quickly. In elementary gym class, I actually had an accident while playing basketball, and the bone poked through my skin. Unfortunately, it wasn't a one-time fixer-upper. I had to keep getting bone surgery, but I continued my dance classes after surgeries, and in a way, I think that was therapy, physical therapy.
Yeah, you're a champion, I got to tell you. I mean, what you've gone through, I don't wish on too many people, believe me. But what about the other people in the company who are in wheelchairs? How do they function, and how do you all integrate your dance together, meaning that when it's the whole company's out and performing, and there's people like you with, the loss of an arm, and then there's people who are in wheelchairs. Describe to our audience how that works.
Let me think about this. I think that partnering with somebody using a wheelchair takes communication, asking questions, learning how they move, just like maybe they're learning how you move too, because they're in their body and you're in your body, so you kind of have to communicate each person's technique or the way they roll and the way you move.
You said, I'm sorry, let me interrupt you for a second. You said the way they roll. So does that mean that they get out of their wheelchair and get onto the floor and work their body on the floor?
Some dancers like to do that, but what I meant was roll in their wheelchair. We like to use inclusive language, so instead of saying walk around the room, we kind of just say roll or travel or locomote through the room. So that's just a bit of the language we like to use in the studio.
Yeah. What kind of response do you get from the audience generally? Because, again, it's a very different kind of company than the ordinary one. And I'm just curious about how people respond to you and respond to the rest of the company.
We get a lot of people telling us that it's inspiring, or a lot of non-disabled people will begin to realize more things about the disabled community. And then it's great when we get actually disabled people realize that they could dance too.
Yes.
I think my goal and our goal is to actually integrate those two groups.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I'm going to tell you a little story, and then I'm going to ask you to tell our audience about one of the most exciting things that you've ever done. But first of all, let me tell you, years and years ago, I also had an opportunity to work for a dance company, believe it or not. And I remember going to a space where there were two dancers. One of them was, not disabled, and the other one literally had no legs. And the one that had no legs danced with his whole body. He just moved. He moved on his solar plexus. His arms were up. He bounced around. It was phenomenal to see that. I mean, totally phenomenal. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if people with disabilities realized that they can do everything, in most of everything at least, that they want to do. They don't need to be, dependent on other people for everything they do. Now, you have described your company, and you said that there's such delight and such phenomenal feelings that people get no matter what their issue is, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's a quick answer, but it really tells you a lot. Yes, it's true, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people.
Yeah, I would say about that. We actually had a summer intensive participant. She wanted to do a duet, and where we have a showing at the end of the summer intensive, and her duet was actually about how a lot of people see disabled people as not whole, and that piece was to show that she is very much whole. Yeah. I just want to go back and just also say about the Axis performances that happen. I think that our artistry, Mark Brew, our artistic director, has tried really hard to bring it up to a height where not only are the dancers and the company being seen as an inspiration because they're disabled and non-disabled, but also that the artistry is at the same level of hard work for the same message.
Well, that brings me to the question of what your favorite and most memorable performance in dance so far was.
Yes. I'd say probably one of my few first shows that I did for Axis. The hardest was the first piece I learned for the company actually in 2016. It was a trio, so just 3 of us on the stage. It was 25 minutes long with lifts, quick movements, and also the dancers never left the stage.
Amazing. Where do you get I mean, I know you sound very young, but where does one get the energy to do these kinds of things? I mean, it sounds like it's very difficult. So, I mean, even if you're young, how do you do it?
Practice. Just a lot of practice, repetition, and also one of the biggest things I learned one of those nights was that I needed to play on stage. And Mark, he actually told me, just don't worry, play with the movement, play with the other dancers on stage, play with the music. And that kind of pushed me through this 25-minute long piece.
Wow.
Just treating each section like its own, being in the present.
Oh, my. That sounds really incredible. Now, what advice would you give to someone else who has a disability who would like to be a dancer?
I would tell them that I've had my journey, and so will you. Don't allow barriers to stop you from doing something that your heart wants. And no matter how much society repeatedly disables me or you, there is a way that you will find and discover how it motivates you and others around you. And I think, and all my coworkers know, that dancing professionally is achievable for people with disabilities, and you just have to practice.
Yeah. I remember many years ago having a discussion with people about I guess I want to call it the desire to do something that is a special thing, but how many people today, when it comes to dance, compared to, say, music, compared to other skills that people have that is centered around the arts, dance is, from my perspective, gets a bad rap. It doesn't really resonate with a lot of people, and I want to know why that is the case. Have you found that it's been very difficult for a dance company to get a lot of work?
Steady work, yes, very difficult.
Yeah,
I was very lucky. I am fortunate and happy to have connected with Axis, because we do get to work 10 months out of the 12 months on salary. And we get to tour twice a year. So the dancers, as far as dance work goes, I think dancers at Axis do get quite a bit of work.
Yes.
And also a thing about Axis, I'd say, is that we also have we have artistry, but we also have engagement and education. And so that means that we advocate for the community of people with disabilities. So we not only perform, but we go into schools and we do a lot of outreach programming.
Yeah, and I bet, and this is just my speculation, but I bet that when you go to the schools, the students and the teachers and the principal and everybody else is just amazed at what you do. Am I right?
Yeah, and they become interested in our program, and they become interested on how they can support or be a part of it, which is great.
Sounds wonderful. And the other thing is that when you are in the schools, you become an inspiration to people. And it seems to me that when you're an inspiration to young people like that, it really gives them an idea that you can do anything you want if you have a passion for it. And I assume that you have a passion for what you do, right?
Yep. Yeah, I'd say, and also I'd actually say that my teachers that I've had in the past have inspired me the most to dance. And then I think I hopefully will become a teacher that inspires her students to dance as well.
Oh, you want to be a teacher. What age kids do you want to work with?
I've had a few opportunities to work with ballerinas and that are ages, I'd say 11 to 16. I'd be interested in working with them and carrying the work that I do in Access into the ballet world.
Wow. You know, it's an interesting thing that I'm thinking about. As, you know, when you want to be a dancer, and again, you have the passion for it, doesn't it help you learn? Because I think, you know, I'll give you an example. You know, my husband is an engineer, and we tried to learn how to dance the two-step, okay, a blues kind of thing. And he was able to do it right away, and not so easy for me. I think it has something to do with mathematics or science in some ways. Do you agree about that?
Yeah, there is a lot of counting in dancing. There's a lot of autonomy to learn about when you're learning how to dance.
Yeah. And who's your favorite dancer? Is there anybody that has been an inspiration to you?
Like I said, I haven't had really an idol dancer. I've mostly just looked up to my teachers first and foremost, and then my peers.
Okay, so Access, what's in store for Access right now? Are you going to be traveling, and if so, where are you going, and what's the future of Access?
September, we're going to go to Florida.
Florida? Where in Florida?
We're going to go all over. We're going to go to Tampa, Miami, Orlando, and Jacksonville. There's a movement arts festival in Miami that we'll be in, along with the other physically integrated company, Kendugo, from the UK.
You know something? I'm in Florida, about an hour from Miami. I'd love to see you guys. You sound like I think it's going to be terrific. It's just going to be an inspiration to everybody I know. So, you know, let's talk about that later. But, wow, this is great. I'm going to get a chance to see Access, and I love that idea. Yeah, that would be wonderful. When do you expect to be in Florida?
Our tour is in September. It's September 11th to Tampa, and then on the 18th we go to Jacksonville, and then on the 25th we'll travel to Miami, and the festival is actually September 28th.
Okay, so what is the festival called for those people in our audience from Florida? So what could they, you know, how do they know that you're going to be there, and how do they, what is the name of the performance?
Let me look that up because I want to get it right.
Okay.
It's called Forward Motion Festival.
Ford, Forward, is that correct?
Yep.
Forward motion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the music that you use, that Access uses, generally speaking, is it very hip, or is it different kinds of classical or jazz or blues or rap? What kind of music backs you up?
Well, for Mark Brew's piece, which is called Radical Impact, he collaborated with an Oakland-based orchestra, hip-hop orchestra, led by McNaw Woosh. And so it's very instrumental, strings. And then another piece that will be touring, but I don't think be showing at this festival, but touring in Tampa and Jacksonville, is Amy Seiwert's piece, who is a Bay Area choreographer, and her husband created the music, which is kind of horns, brass sounds. Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite instrument?
My favorite instrument is probably the trumpet, because I actually used to play the trumpet, so I like hearing the trumpet in jazz.
That's great. Oh, in jazz. Oh, wonderful. Sounds great. Now, if people want to get in touch with Access Dance and learn about some of the upcoming performances, how do they do that?
Our website, accessdance.org. We also have a Facebook, Instagram. You can email us if you have any thing to tell us at info@accessdance.org.
Okay. And also, Lani, I am interested in knowing or asking you, if you had a chance to have the last word for our show, what would you want to tell our audience?
I would say that if you pursue a career in dance, you will be advocating for people just like you.
Pretty good. Well, today my guest has been Lani Dickinson, who is a dancer with a very special company called Access Dance. They're located in California, and they have to be an inspiration to everyone. And I think if you really want to see something special, go to their site, their website, which is access.com, and take a look at where they're going to be, because they travel all around the country and all over the world. And I want to thank you, Lani, for telling us a little bit about your abilities, and even though you're disabled, it doesn't even matter, because you must be a wonderful dancer, and I look forward to seeing you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, I want to thank Lani Dickinson for being on the Susan Brender Show. You're a wonderful person, I can tell, and an inspiration to all of us. So thank you again.
Thank you for listening to the Susan Brender Show. To be a guest, email sebrender@yahoo.com.